Yeah. I'm ready to play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it. I'm ready to do it. I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now. I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this. Show you what the truth is. I step on the field. It's time to get real. I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up. It's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, my time. Nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down. It's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise. Don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top. We reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top. We reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from around the world as we come to you for Season 13, Round 1 of the AMF GT Series here tonight at Donington Park. Joining me in the booth tonight, Brad Klink. Behind the cameras, Scott Newton. Brad, we saw a fantastic season to conclude Season 12 last week, or a couple of weeks back now when the season concluded. Some new championship winners. We're coming forward into 13 now. A whole new raft of circuit changes. And it's really going to open the door, especially with some new cars coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel, and hi to everyone tuning in. This is going to be a great season opener. We've got the Trak Racer GT Series back for Season 13 with the addition of the C8 Corvette into the GTE category. So it's a new toy for some of the drivers to play with. Probably just looking through the field, can't see quite as many there as I thought we would have, but there are half a dozen or so on the grid. And it's a really good mix of cars this season from the looks of it. Quite a few Fords out there, seeing a bit of a resurgence for that as well. So yeah, it's going to be great to see how the season kicks off. This track's such a fantastic track to start off with too. It's nice and it's short, but it has so many different elements to it in such a short lap, with the undulation and some fast corners, different changes of camber, and then you've got the sort of chicanes, the Fogarty S's, and some pretty challenging pit entry and pit exit too. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of action over the 90 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, touching on a few of those, you've got a few of the key points that I'd found as well. So pit entry and exit going to be very critical here tonight. We've got 90 minutes, 2 pit stops for everyone, 1 mandatory tyre change that everyone's going to have to complete somewhere along the way. And getting into pit entry off Goddard's corner, we're going to be very tight, especially with a lot of guys trying to attack for an undercut through there where possible. And as you said, Brad, the rundown through the Craner curves, turns 2, 3, and 4. It's a really technical track portion of the track. It's downhill. There's a lot of elevation changes the guys have got to go through, plus some off-camber braking, which they need to negotiate through as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go with that. And as we clear off from practice, we're going to see the track coming up and gridding order about to commence. Starting off pole position tonight will be Craig Edwards from Fusion Sim Racing, alongside him Ross Rizzo. Jacob Bowen in third tonight, Josh Thomas, defending series champion from last season, starting out of fourth. Harley Haber in fifth, with Michael Hilliard out of sixth. Nathan Huppets and Cooper Allen out of seventh and eighth position tonight. Simon Nicholson, Jordan Sini, Tim Phoeben, Jordan Cullis in 12th position tonight. Out of 13th, we'll have Kane Ryder, Martin Crisp in 14th. James Glasspool starting from 15th tonight. Alongside him will be Sean Curran. Tom Huggin for XRC Racing out of 17th, with Adam Gardner alongside him in the 18th position. Chris Pallett start out of 19th for Fusion Sim Racing, with his teammate Jordan Klimbersink in the 20th spot. Lee Vandenberg starting a little further down than what we've traditionally seen from him, down in 21st. Jason Bentz returning to the series after quite a few seasons away, starts out of 22nd tonight, with Nick Sanafilippo. Chris Whitesell in 24th position for Pure Sim Racing. Shoot Sim Racing, sorry. Chris Keeping and Jeremy Clark in 26th position. Christopher Hughes out of 27th. Matt Morris and 28th. Scott Sislowski and Dominic Molit will round out the 20th position. We've got a few more entrants down into the 36th positions. As we see the guys working their way through the Melbourne hairpin tonight. It's going to be interesting to see how they get these cars off. And as you said, Brad, too, very interesting start with the C8 out in front, but the Ford's hotly on its heels so far.
Yeah, so looks like 37 cars taken to the grid. It's just got the partial pace lap here as well. So guys are just going through Goddard's here, and we'll see. It looks like Craig's jumped really early on the exit there, got a great start, but Rizzo's hot on his heels and trying to make a move. Oh, had a little look there, and a nice clean start from the looks of it.
Yeah, fantastic jump away from everyone's. Edwards able to defend that pole position. We see him work down 2, 3 and 4 down through the Carina curves. At the moment, Josh Thomas working his way through a little further up the field. Everyone else already in single file, as we see Hughes snaking his way down. Harley Haber has gone off, and seeing some action here. Guys have dropped some wheels down through turn 4 under the bridge there, and we've seen 4 or 5 cars heavily involved in that. So that's a difficult way to start the night tonight.
Yeah, it's always challenging with the change of direction down through Hollywood Craner curves, the old hairpin there on that first lap. So a couple of drivers finding trouble there, and one of the Fords that was didn't quite catch which one it was, but it's just out of picture there, getting really out of shape coming out of Coppers. And some drivers looking to make moves down into the Fogarty S's for the first time. Some pretty aggressive driving, considering this is a 90-minute race. Or a little bit of a tap there and another tap. Unfortunately, it's one of the BMWs just gone around there. I think that might have been Crisp.
Yeah, a little bit of an awkward start there. We're just watching Josh Thomas snake his way through, able to avoid some of that. He's had a bit of a tough start for him tonight, dropping 6 places from where he started off, actually now up into 9th. So 5 down and a bit of a tough opening start for the defending champion. Quite a few cars already coming into the lane as well. Lee Vandenberg, Sean Curran coming in early on from that contact. So field just needing to settle down just a fraction here as we get back underway. And we'll watch these guys work their way back through.
Edwards has been able to get a little bit of clean space at the front here. He's built out to almost 1.5 seconds over Rizzo, and there's a little bit of a gap to Cooper Allen there as well. So stretching out a little bit at the front with that bit of too wide action, a bit of rubbing of panels for the opening stanza of the race there. But it's like everyone's starting to settle down, trying to get into a groove and start thinking about strategy. Obviously they've got the 2 stops. One of those is mandatory tyres, and then the other one in these 90-minute races usually is just a very quick splash, although some drivers could split their fuel over the 2 stops, but what we have seen historically in these races is that one of those stops usually is a very quick splash just to get the second stop ticked off.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see where they decide to play those pit stop games. Focus here on Matt Morris, switching back from the trusty Porsche that he ran last season back into the old faithful Ferrari. He's got Christopher Hughes for XRC Racing just ahead. He'll dive that car down to the inside through turn 1. And he's just going to get, looks to get Hughes on the initial turn in. He's going to have to be careful because he's got Scott Cieslewski right behind there as well. Hughes does not want to give this up, hangs through 3. Going to be tough here on the outside as they work their way through 4, which is where we saw the opening issue there as Matt Morris just drops a tyre on the ground. But that was where our opening issues were for the likes of Harley Haber, which saw him drop well down to the end of the field and in need of those repairs. Haber currently down in 24th position, so considering from where he started, that's going to be a hard night for him to work through. Now Chris Hughes settling in for XRC Racing. Scott Cieslewski still behind. Dominic Malete not too far behind. And these guys are scrapping down at the moment over that 18th position. And pretty comfortable in those cars at the moment.
Yeah, it's a pretty fierce battle there. It looked like Scott Cieslewski was looking pretty keen to try and move, but it didn't take long, and then he had Dominic Mellor all over him, and then we see it's John Puce, and I think that's Huppets that's been tangled up in that, so not a great start to his championship there. So Huppets usually does change cars from one season to the next, doesn't like to stick in the same car for too long. He's changed to the Corvette this time around, and yeah, that's looks like contact quite late into the entry of the corner there.
Yeah, it looked like Huppets had the initial turn in where you'd expect. As he's looking back from that, you can see Hughes come all the way down, missing that opportunity with the brakes and hard into the back of Huppets, who for the last few seasons has been a driver that's been thereabouts on the verge of taking the championship. Just had some unfortunate things which have ultimately seen him drop by the wayside as far as the championship's concerned. So a bit of a tough start for him tonight. He's already got that car in the lane taking service at the moment. Simon Nicholson having a very good run, up 5 spots, helped mostly in part due to those earlier issues, so he's looking quite handy. He's got Michael Healy behind Tim Phoeben, last year's defending champ. Unfortunately wasn't able to retain that number 1 on the door, but looking very healthy tonight in the 6th position, up 5 spots as well. It's a good little train of 3 cars here. Good to see the Ford being able to maintain the spot up in 4th.
Yeah, we've got 2 Corvettes in the top 10, 2 BMWs, 3 Fords, and 3 Porsches. So good mix of cars. There's only 2 Ferraris in the field this evening. They're currently in 15th and 16th. It's Chris Keeping and Matt Morris. So, other than that, so pretty good mix of manufacturers across the grid tonight.
Yeah, definitely, and Ferrari didn't get a lot of love last time out, but good to see it back into top split. I think we saw it on 1 or 2 occasions going through. The recovering Harley Haber now just managed to get a move done a couple of corners ago on Dominic Malete, so that'll promote him now up to 18th. He's got Christopher Hughes just ahead, as you see, just dropping out a shot right now. So Haber's looking pretty decent. The pace is quite good in that car still. Last time by 1:24.38, which was actually his quickest lap as he worked his way back through. So look for Harley to move his way back up as this race unfolds. Out front at the moment, you've still got Craig Edwards and Ross Rizzo. That gap's still only sitting at about 7/10, not really starting to strain away too far. And this is a good drive from Rizzo, who last season, Brad, was very, very good on maintaining the tyre life under that car. And with the unknowns at the moment of what the C8 can do, it's putting Rizzo in a very good spot for as the race progresses.
Yeah, he's definitely been able to close that gap a little bit to Edwards. So it'll be interesting to see how the cars compare with tyre life over the stints. Obviously, the new setups this season to balance the cars again, so everyone's in uncharted territory a little bit. And we see a drive-through penalty there for Glasspool. So lap 1, turn 10 incident there. So drive-through penalty, unfortunately for him. So not a good start for his season. And now if we look just up the road in front of these guys, it's a very unexpected sight of Nathan Huppert's just up the road there, almost a lap down quite early in the race here. So he'll be really hoping to try and keep in front of these guys to avoid the blue flags and to see those guys make a pit stop before getting up onto the tail of his C8. He does have his teammate in Edwards as the leader, so you probably won't want to hinder him too much if he does get closer.
Yeah, I think we'll expect to see the team strategy come into play here. Nathan, been around in this championship for quite a long time, knows when to get into the fight or not. He has taken repair after that earlier issue that we saw between himself and John Pierce, so able to recover and get back underway. Already knocked over one of his 2 mandatory stops tonight as well, but that'll be interesting to see what ramifications that has, being as early as it was, and how that plays into the strategy game later on. We'll keep an eye on the pace for this car. It's looking reasonably good at the moment after those repairs. 1:23.9 last time by, marginally quicker by a 10th over our race leaders.
There was another penalty that just flashed up while we're looking at that, and it's Haber making a move there on Hughes. Oh, yep, just gets it done. And yeah, there was one that I missed. I think it might have been Chris Weitzel, perhaps, which had the penalty that flashed up a moment ago, and then John Puce has been given one as well. So race control kept busy in the opening stages. We're not quite 10 minutes in, so a bit over 80 minutes remaining. So it's a lot of time for those guys to try and recover from those penalties, but not the ideal way to start a new season, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. It's going to make it very interesting, no doubt, with some of the adjustments that came out in the rulebook following the conclusion of last season. The guys are going to be very cautious not to find themselves in some issues that are going to see them drop down the order. And as you say, we've got 13 races for these guys to go through. It's a long way still in the championship, only round 1, and all the points are going to be ever critical here. Haber, since getting past Chris Hughes, has actually been able to extend quite a nice healthy gap. He's got Matt Morris just ahead in the Velocity Motorsports magazine, that gap down to a second to work their way through turn 1. Surprisingly, Matt still not been able to dispense yet of Chris Keeping just ahead of him in the other Ferrari. So there's these two looking pretty stable together. Not much in them as far as lap times go. Last time by, only 0.3 of a second in, and actually slightly in favour there of keeping the last time by, but Morris closing in heavily under brakes as they work their way through McLean. So good run here.
Looking at the timing screen, the quickest movers up through the field so far. Steve Jansen is in 19th. He's moved up 16 positions in his RSR. And Adrian Block just behind him is also up 14 in his Ford. So some pretty substantial gains from those guys. Obviously, there's been a few people travel down through the lane. We've had nine cars or 10 cars now through the lane, either for penalties or stops. But yeah, there's still significant gains for those guys.
Some really solid gains all the way up and down through the field at the moment. The battle out the front, though, still continuing on down to 0.4 of a second. The guys work their way a little bit around the track, coming up through 6 and 7 now. And not much between either of these two cars. Rizzo setting some very good lap times out there currently, only a couple of tenths slower last time by. So not much in it. The track conditions very favourable for these guys. 19 track at the moment, 17 ambient. So we're expecting to see not a lot of tyre drop off as a result of this. The grip's going to be quite high as we see Rizzo fire in that car in through the S's, through 9 and 10 there. And the mid-corner speed of that Ford, very, very good. But the Corvette able to extract a little bit more out as they get power down and get away, as we see them work their way out through 11. Goddard's will be an interesting one because it's an off-camber entry, just to see how that Ford goes. You can close it in quite nicely. It takes a really good entrance line through there. Again, just suffering a little bit on that drive.
Yeah, it's a nice early morning here at Donington, so it shouldn't get too warm. Drivers be quite thankful for that in regards to tyres. When it does get a little warm here, it can be quite punishing on the left-hand tyres in particular, but they shouldn't have too many worries with that today. Just looking at the stationary time on the cars that have been through the lane, there's a couple that have just done the sort of 2 and 3 second stops, which more than likely just little splashes to take care of that second stop that's mandatory. And there's looks like about 3 or 4 cars have been through and taken tyres, so interesting to see how that plays out, particularly Lee Vandenberg. He looks like he's already done his tyre stop. So, and we've got Julian Klambusink just off down under the Starkey's bridge there, the exit of the old hairpin. On board for the replay, just come down through the hairpin, just loses the rear on entry and does well to recover it quite quickly. It's pretty easy to end up out in the sand there.
Yeah, and probably the fastest corner on the circuit to have lost the back there, and did a really good job to keep that car off the wall and back into it now. He's lost 2 or 3 spots as a result of that, so a little bit of work for him left to do to work his way back up, which will be something we'll keep an eager eye on as he works his way through.
The battle's all the way through the field. This is Puppets, and he's just got past Justin Wallace there, so he's trying to. Oh, you can see Edwards round a bit wide, and Rizzo's got a run on him. Yeah, side by side, heading up through the cleans. But yeah, rare mistake there from Edwards. Just got a little bit out of shape just on the exit of the hairpin, the old hairpin there, and just caught the grass and the dirt, which allowed Rizzo to keep the momentum. Being able to defend it for now, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because it looks like they're going to catch back up onto Wallace here before too long and have some traffic, the first traffic to deal with. Puppets is still trying to maintain this gap to avoid losing unnecessary time before these guys decide to peel off into the lane for their first stops. They both continue around down Wheatcroft Straight and head down into Redgate. You see the guys just use a little bit of the pit exit there to open up the entry to that corner. It's why that can be quite dangerous if there's someone coming out of the lane. And we've got a great battle here between Haber and Morris. Haber's been able to just get through there quite recently. As he recovers, is still down 8 positions from where he qualified.
Yeah, but since those earlier issues, been a really solid drive here from Haber. The pace being very quick in that car, and just as we look at him there, he has a bit of a lose on the exit, finds the tyre barrier, and I believe we've already seen him use one fast repair to get that car back underway. That's going to leave him stranded in the lane for a long time, so he needs to get that car back through.
Yeah, that was an odd one. Just have a look at it on board. So
initial turn in quite good. A little bit of mid-corner understeer there. Just picks up the outside back edge of that rumble strip there. Not able to save it as the gets onto the grass and around she goes. So a little unfortunate there for Haber, who was having a very solid drive recovering that car back up through the field. He's going to have a lot of work ahead of him now to do it all over again. A little bit of a cork in the bottle. Everyone starts to close up. So Dominic Julian Klimbusink, Adrian Blocks is also getting involved in this. Adam Gardner just behind as well. So we see Block trying to get a move done up the inside. Klimbusink thinks about going through with him as well. So that sort of Block almost getting rear-ended by Adam Gardner there as everyone sort of came to a bit of a standstill mid-corner.
yeah, great mid-pack battle, and that was Haber just peeling off into the lane, and he's also got Adam Gardner following as well. So we do expect Haber to spend a significant amount of time in the lane there, unfortunately, with the repairs. So a couple of cars peel out of that battle. We've got keeping out front there in the Ferrari, followed by the two Porsches. And back up front, briefly there. That was just a quick glance of the gap at the front, but Edwards is still got that half a second over Rizzo, so we'll stick with this just for a moment, see how these guys are going. So yeah, keeping up front of this, and then we've got Hughes and Janssen, the two RSRs.
And also a little bit of information to how you were able to get that car repaired and back underway. So this is under the 12-second session, so you will be able to get back into it, down in 26th position as well, so a lot of work for him left to do. But keep an eye on this battle here, because Chris doing a very solid job keeping that Ferrari ahead of Hughes. Steve Janssen getting the nose in there as well, looking for an opportunity to come through. And this might be a good spot for him here. If he can get the crisscross, he hangs a little bit wide, tries to get the nose back across, just not able to get it done. But the two Porsches here very equally matched, across the line, start another lap. But not much in them, but while these two are fighting on, Chris Keeping's able just to scurry away a little bit further. And as they work through turn one, Janssen actually gets the move done up the inside. Promotes himself now up into 15th position.
Yeah, that's a great move there, and that's actually puts him up, I believe, 20 positions on where he started now. So he's had a great opening stint here, and we haven't quite ticked over 20 minutes yet. So if he continues this kind of progress, he could be on for a very solid top 10 result.
On how his progress progresses through as we switch from one XRC car to another. Simon Nicholson, much further up the field at the moment, up in 4th position, and he's got that's Cooper Allen just ahead in the Porsche. Right behind him, Tim Pheeman. It's a new livery on the XRC cars this season, looking very nice on that car as well, so a lot more chrome involved in it, and really makes the Ford pop quite a little bit, or quite nicely on the circuit here. As you see, keep an eye too as Pheeman, Michael Healy not far behind, Josh Thomas recovering after that earlier lap 1 issue that saw him off in the weeds at turn 4 there, currently sitting down in the 7th position.
Just going to try and have a look at some coverage back from lap 1. Fortunately, I'm just having a bit of a technical issue at my end. I can't quite see that. Just while we try and sort that out, just had a look at the timings, and we've got just the two drivers out front, Edwards and Rizzo, ducked down into the 23s. So far, Edwards with the quickest lap, 23.55, although Ross has just done a purple sector in the first sector.
Yeah, so a really good run there for Rizzo, keeping those tyres underneath that car and being able to pressure, but Edwards quickly hits back and takes a outright best through sector 2. So both these drivers keeping an eye on the tyres, and as one moves, the other matches in suit just to follow along, but they're extending quite a healthy lead now, 7 seconds over 3rd place. And Cooper Allen, a driver we didn't see in last season's event, having a very solid run tonight for A-Team Motorsport, up in the 3rd spot, 5 spots up from where he started. A little bit of damage on the front of that car, which would have been most likely from that lap 1 incident that we saw down through turn 4 there. But other than that, been a very solid drive pace, very consistent in this car for him as he works his way through. A little further back, Aaron Specchio all over the back of Bailey Fried as they work their way up through Copsis, as the Ford not quite able to close up, so Bailey able to get a little bit further away in the Mach 1 Esports car.
And we've got Timothy Phoeben in the pits. I also just noticed on the timing screen, it looked like Morris had a bit of an off-track excursion. Perhaps got a little bit wide somewhere. I saw the off-track come up on the timing tree on the left, and you see a little red highlight on the position indicator that shows that the drivers potentially just had an off-track moment, and he did drop a position when that happened as well.
This is a long stop for Tim Phoeben, still in the lane, 37 seconds stationary as he drops and gets away. Just see that car in the background as we continue watching Spezia here. And Phoeben, I imagine that's going to be an early stop to get the tyres done on that car. We'll rejoin now down in 24th position. So not too bad considering everyone else has come in, and that'll put him in really good stead. As this race continues, Spezia using all the road and then some to hang into this fight, and just not quite able to get it done. Up front, however, the two leaders, Edwards and Rizzo, still nothing separating either of these two. 3 to 4 tenths of a second. So they work their way around another lap. They've still got that lap traffic ahead. This time, Nathan Huppertz, who's now working on the back of Jesse Butler as well. So good still recovery for Huppertz. They're not really interfering at all with this lead battle. But Ross Rizzo is really starting to apply the pressure to the back of Edwards. And no doubt there's going to be some team orders, team discussions about trying to help clear a path for Edwards so that this fight doesn't come to a premature end.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a pressure situation. So obviously, Huppertz doesn't want to go down lap because these guys haven't stopped yet. If they do, they'll take the pressure off him for a while. He's also trying to work away at Jesse Butler there in the Mach 1 RSR in front. And you can see Edwards and Rizzo just clipping the bollards there down through the Fogarty S's. Looks like Mellett's just lost a couple of positions. Oh, he's had an off-track moment as well. Seeing him tumble down the order a few positions there, and that looks like Huppertz has just actually made way there. So couldn't hold it out as long as he had hoped to. It was down within a second, that gap, so probably didn't want to interfere with the air for Edwards in this battle.
And that's a smart move there from Nathan Huppertz, one of the true gentlemen in the series, just stepping aside and letting this one continue. So good fight still raging on up here. Edwards, Rizzo still at it. Jesse Butler just ahead of this little train. You can see him there. So he'll be the next one to drop the lap as these guys work through. I don't imagine he's going to stay out too far and hinder what could be a race-defining moment here. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Cars off in the background of that shot there as well. I think that might have been Chris Pellet. We're looking at Justin Wallace here. Just see if we can pick that up. Looks like it might have been John Puce. Yeah, just loses the beat. I think we ought to catch it up, but and he's done the right thing. Hasn't steered hard right to get back on the track there. He's taken his time to rejoin safely, so it's always good to see. And he's still got over an hour left in the race to try and recover from that. So the smart thing to do is just to rejoin when it is safe to do so. Cullis in the Ford here as well. He's got Ryder just ahead, and Benz in the C8 just behind. So 3 different manufacturers in this little battle.
Yeah, all 3 cars. Sorry, Brad, go ahead.
I was just looking at the screen just quickly to touch base with the drivers that have stopped, and Phoeben is second of the drivers that have stopped, but he's the first one with the stationary time long enough to have taken tyres. So I think he's the one the guys are going to be looking at strategy-wise that haven't stopped, just to see if they can cover him off and see where they feed out in relation to him.
Yeah, and just looking at that, and for any of the viewers who want to check it out, you can find all the info on the live timing link. He's having a very good run, just a little behind a few cars at the moment as they work their way down through 2 and 3. So keep an eye on Phoeben as he works his way through. Jordan Cullis, meanwhile, dropping back just a fraction here from the back of Kane Ryder. He's starting to come under a fair bit of pressure now with Jason Bentz closing in the C8 for XCM Cross Continental Motorsport. And this is a good drive from Bentz. Really been out of the season for quite a few, championship for quite a few seasons, so it's a very strong return here in the new car, which surprisingly hasn't been maybe as quick as we all anticipated it would have been. Admittedly, still leading the race, but we're seeing some very good balanced performance out here at the moment between all 5 manufacturers, and for the race organisers to have set these cars up the way they have, they've done an outstanding job at the moment.
Yeah, following this little battle here with good reason too, because Cullis and Bentz have dipped down into the 23s, as has Joshua Thomas in P5 and his BMW, and interestingly Phoeben has dipped down into 23s as well. He's still back at 23rd, but yeah, he's definitely making use of that strategy that he's on at the moment, so he's got a couple seconds clean air in front of him too, so well, he will have once he makes that move.
Tim Phoeben just getting past James Glasspool, who just ahead. He was one of the first drivers to have taken a slightly shorter stop, would have been a slash and dash, so that promotes Phoeben now to 20 seconds, and he sets his now sights further forward. He's got Aaron Specchio ahead as we continue to watch the battle out front.
It's gone defensive there. A little bit of dirt coming up from the inside of the track. Leaves room for Rizzo on the outside. It's going to be side by side coming down through Craner Curve. If Edwards can hang out there, you get the inside for the old hairpin. Or a little bit of contact perhaps there, but they both survived. Rizzo's done great to hold that in there, and he's just cut across, been able to take the lead there. Pretty respectful exchange there between those two guys, and got that traffic of Butler and Hubbard's just behind too. I think Jesse's eyeballs would have been a little large, seeing what was happening just in front of him there.
Yeah, definitely not a move you'd really see a lot of down here, down through the SSR into 4, and for Rizzo, a lot of confidence showing there with Craig Edwards. Just a little bit of bump between both of them, and both drivers doing an outstanding job, as you said, Brad, just to lean on each other enough to get those cars through. And for Rizzo now, it's going to see him take hold of this race at 30-minute mark, so a good strong run for him so far in the Trak Esports car. And Trak Esports last season taking the overall teams championship in quite dominant fashion, and they're setting themselves forward now to get their season off to a strong campaign, as we see Cooper Allen just in the background of shot there, diving in the lane to complete the first of his 2 stops tonight as well.
Yeah, it's surprising there's still quite a few drivers yet to go through the lane. That's, I think, 20 drivers now still yet to stop with Allen going down through the lane. We've got Chris Pallett is showing has been through the lane twice. So don't recall him getting a penalty. It may have been one there that I missed, but if that isn't the case, could be just trying to roll the dice on something different. He's back down in 35th. So we'll try and catch up with that a bit later to see how he progresses. Crisp in the lane as well now, so looks like it's going to be a few more stops from the top half of the field being triggered. Rizzo's stretched out to almost a second now, so looks like he had a bit of pace in hand.
Yeah, and, a very good
Dominic.
job.
So yeah, then just Dominic Mellett here trying to work his way back onto the back of Morris. I think, those two were quite close earlier on. I think they both had separate off tracks and separate incidents before. And looks like Fred behind has just had an off track as well, losing a couple of positions. So a few of the drivers having issues keeping on the black stuff out there. It is a bit narrow through parts of this circuit, so not a lot of room. Basically, no tarmac runoff area to be seen. So if you do put a wheel off, it usually means quite a big loss of momentum if you do manage to keep it off the wall.
Yeah, and we've already seen tonight quite a few drivers going off just from a little bit of maybe being a little bit ambitious, running a little too wide through some corners and finding their way through. We did also see Jason Bentz dropped in the lane for his first stop tonight, and that's good change for him. Comes back out 17th position and still looking quite handy at the moment. We've got a car stationary down on the exit of Goddard's as well. Not sure who that was involved. That was a bit of a weird one. So they've managed to get the car going by the looks. Cooper Allen, he'd only just come in for his stop only a lap or two ago. Gets the car quickly out of the way as to not get collected, and we'll get back underway, but that's going to cost him quite a handful of positions. As you see too, at the top of frame, the recovering Harley Haber trying to get a move completed as well. So as you see one issue at one end of the straight, we see another one further up, and everyone is pushing exceptionally hard to gain those spots back. Kane Ryder, however, up in 5th spot right now, still having a very solid run in the Max Boost racing car. Still got Jordan Cullis behind. That hasn't changed too much. They have been able to extend a little bit up over Tom Hagen, Jordan's teammate there, and those guys are looking pretty handy out there. Brad, you were out on track at the moment. Obviously, we're 30 minutes or just over 30 minutes into the race. Knowing you got a couple of stops left in hand, when would you be looking to play those, do you think?
I think at this stage of the race, there's quite a bit of traffic starting to happen, so you really want to try and place yourself into some clean air if you can. But we've still got 37 cars running, I believe, and no one's actually retired, so there's not much room out there with such a short lap. I mean, we're talking 83, 84 seconds to complete a lap, so it doesn't leave a lot of space. You can see on the circuit map there, it does look quite busy. There's a couple of little gaps there if you can manage to slot yourself in around 13th, 14th, 15th there. The rest of the track's quite busy, so that'd be what I'd be trying to look at if I had a spotter working with me, or using some kind of data software similar to what we use on the broadcast, and you can just try and figure out if you're going to slot in and where the gap might be, and that might just make that decision of whether you want to just do the short splash for the second mandatory stop, or if you want to do the longer stop with tyres, depending on where you might filter back out with the traffic.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tricky one to do, especially around this circuit here, being as small as we are. We see James Glasspool getting a move done on Aaron Specchio. Specchio just locking a brake down into Melbourne Hairpin there, and luckily just the one position lost there, able to get back underway. We've got quite a few more cars in the lane as well. Nick Sanafilippo, Soslowski, Malit, Specchio actually just dropping in the lane there as well to get that stop of his completed. And then further behind Glasspool now, we've got Harley Haber getting back underway.
Yeah, we've had the Columbia team and Cooper Allen just stopped not long ago as well. Mellett, Healy, Kozlowski, there are a whole heap of them just going through now, so expect to see the guys up front come through. Just on board with Cooper Allen here. And he's trying to work his way back up onto Julian, who's just come out. Cooper Allen has been... Oh, and you can see Julian has a moment there on the cold tyres. His tyres weren't quite up to temp yet, and he's off in the sand, still out there. It's going to take him a bit to get back on track there. So that's the difference in the tyres there. So that was... Allen had stopped 2 laps earlier, so had better temp in his tyres. I believe they both did take tyres at those stops as well. Just looking at the replay from on board with Julian. And again, we've seen them, not the first time we've seen a BMW have an issue with losing the rear through there. I can't recall who it was earlier in the race, but there was another one who had a very similar incident there, and he's still parked in the sand.
That's
Potentially could be a safety car.
yeah, we just had race control call that we were going to get the first safety car of the season out underway, and with that, everyone diving into the lane to knock over one of the stops, which is a very smart move to do. Keep an eye on who falls through. So far, we've got Rizzo, Edwards in, a few lap cars down just behind, so keep an eye on that. But Vandenberg's in there, Clark, Huppets, Butler, Chris, Mitchell, Gardner, everyone coming in the lane to clear these stops now.
Yeah, this is going to help a lot of the guys who already did a stop earlier in the race, because they'll be able to tick off their second one now under safety car conditions. It may not have ideal track position, but the second stop for some of these guys may have to be under green conditions. So even if, Edwards and Rizzo could just do the short stop here to maintain track position, but then they'd have to do their longer tyre stop potentially under green conditions. So I think they're doing the smart thing and taking the tyres here. They're going to lose some track position while doing that, but it'll reduce the pain of potentially having to do a green stop, green flag stop later on.
Yeah, definitely. And we saw all those cars drop up onto tyres, onto the jack stands to get out there. So Ross Rizzo comes out. Jordan Cullis, big mover there, gets himself now into second position. And he also did the long service stop there as well. Craig Edwards drops back into third position. Simon Nicholson comes out in fourth. And Josh Thomas into the fifth spot. So for Thomas, a little bit costly there, dropping from third position.
Yeah, so if we're going to shake things up, this safety car, we're about 40 minutes in, so there's still, a 50-minute run to the flag from here. So we've seen a lot happen already. And anyway, the Alexander Bird is out there in the safety car for the first time in the season. He's got the McLaren, track racer McLaren safety car out there this time. Looking pretty fancy with its chrome paint job out there. Drivers certainly won't be able to miss it.
No, not at all. And that's the change too from last season where we saw the BMW M4 getting a run. So nice to see a little bit of variety. So you see all our wave rounds now completed, and we've seen Ross Rizzo now get picked up behind the safety car, and he will have control of the field. So be interesting to see. It looks like everyone's at least come down for their first stop.
And
Rizzo going
I
for the second stop. Now that's an interesting move because we haven't seen that work out previously under green flag conditions. And Rizzo actually covered off there by Craig Edwards. So these two getting their short fill stop now out of the way, which is going to hurt when they come back out because they're going to be in a huge amount of traffic here. But potentially for Rizzo, he's going to have 1 or 2 car advantage.
Just means just to exit the lane in front of Edwards there. So very similar stationary time, only about 0.4 of a second difference between the two. So just putting a little bit of fuel in to tick that second pit stop off. The safety car period will obviously reduce the fuel burn as well. So I can't imagine that anyone will have any issues with fuel heading through to the end of the race. So just looking at the order now, we've got Cullis, Nicholson, Thomas, Ryder, Sanfilippo, and they're the top 5. They've only made just the one transit through the lane. So Rizzo's in 6th with Edwards in 7th. So they're obviously the first guys have ticked both those mandatory stops off the list. But the pace that they had, it's going to be potentially quite awkward when this goes green here, having those 5 cars in front. Admittedly, those guys have been doing some pretty good laps, but not all of them into the 23s. So, and Rizzo and Edwards consistently doing 23s for this safety car period. So expect to see them put a lot of pressure on this opening 5. See the lights go out on the safety car, so we're about to go green.
I guess the one advantage for Rizzo and Edwards here is everyone else has taken tyres as well. So we're all starting on pretty cold tyres when this one gets back underway. And as you say, Brad, the safety car pulling away with Alex Bird on board. So he'll get that car back into the lane, and that'll hand control of the restart over to Jordan Cullis. And Cullis actually a little bit fortunate here. He's got his teammate Simon Nicholson right behind, and lurking just behind these two as well, defending champion Josh Thomas for Fishy Motorsports. So for Josh, he started very high up in the order, ultimately got caught up in that lap one issue, but we'll see what he can do as they get back underway. And Cullis now puts the foot down as they tip in through Goddard for the restart of this one. Thomas all over the back of Nicholson, and see whether he can get a move done into turn one. Everyone else further back streaming through single file here. It's a really good restart for everyone involved. See Ross Rizzo just jinking that car out a fraction behind Sana Filippo. Just let him know that he's there. And as you see, Harley Haber too working his way back. Haber now actually dispensing at Chris Hughes there, so that gets him back into 14th position.
Yeah, a bit of side-by-side action down through Hollywood, and gets it down through Craner Curves, gets in front without the overlap, so able to make that move. You can see Hughes with a bit of damage on his car, and one of the XRC Fords, I thought that might have been one of the top two, but must be one of the teammates. But yeah, a bit of a photo opportunity up front here with the two XRC Fords 1-2 at the moment. But Thomas is pretty keen to get past Nicholson here. He's been really strong on this restart. Carlos has done a great job going out to a bit over a second lead there, so no pressure on him. And Nicholson's going to hopefully play the rear gunner for him for a little while.
Yeah, and I think that XRC car you mentioned, Brad, there, that was John Hughes just stepping aside, letting everyone back through. So fair play to him, just allowing that field to continue on. As we see Jesse Butler and Cooper Allen having a little bit of a scrap through Goddard's here in the final corner, and Jansen will be able to get that car up another spot, so that moves him now into 12th position. Good run for him. He's got Tom Hartigan just ahead. Jason Bent's not too far up the road either. They have got a lap down car just in there. I think that's Chris Weitzel in the Pulse Racing Team car, so don't think they're going to offer up too much of a challenge here, but good fight nonetheless. Josh Thomas still out front. Thomas still applying a lot of pressure.
So there's a bit of a mix of strategies going on there. Jansen is up 23 positions, but he's one of the drivers that has only made the one stop, as is Mellett, who is in 9th. He's up 21, but we're going to have to do another trip through the lane yet, so interesting to see how some of these strategies shake out. We're just ticked over 45 minutes, so halfway through. There's been a lot of action already, and we've only just ticked over halfway through the race, so it's quite entertaining race so far, and I quite like having the 90-minute format to kick the season off. Lets the drivers get a bit of time in the car and try and find their feet with it, work out what they need to do to adapt to this season's sets and any car swaps that they've done from the previous season.
Yeah, definitely, and there was some adjustments in balance of performance too prior to the start of this one. The BMW gaining 10 kilos early on in the piece, so a little bit extra weight on that car, but at the moment not really slowing down Josh Thomas at all, or that for that matter either. Kane Ryder just in behind there, so those guys are still showing some very solid pace in those cars. The Ford, on the other hand, though, really starting to come into its own with those setup tweaks. Jordan Cullis set him the quickest lap last time by a 1:23.42, so he is getting out quickly. And just saw Kane Ryder having a moment. He's gone off the circuit down through McLean, so that's a tough break for him out of that 4th position, still tumbling down the order, down into 11th position as he recovers that car.
Yeah, I was surprised not to see some damage on the left-hand side of that BMW, because the tyre marks were quite wide out right next to the wall there, so it's like he might have just been able to keep it off. The tyres on the outside, and no rest, because he's rejoined straight in front of Haber, who is pretty keen to recover after his adventures earlier on. Just a look on board here with Harley, heading up towards Goddard's, the final hairpin. Right, and it looks like yeah, Ryder's just going to peel off into the lane there, so a bit of breathing space for Harley. He's got a bit over a second up to Allen there now as well.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take Haber much to close down that gap. He is still maintaining a very quick lap time comparative, so within a lap or two, he's definitely going to be on the back there and challenging for another position further up the field. It's a very strong recovery following what happened to him turn one, and then only about 5-10 laps later on, where we saw him taking that car, exiting through 4 and into the tyre barrier for a lot of damage down the side of that car. So a very strong drive nonetheless. Jason Bence having a very good night still, finds himself inside the top 10, 9th position at the moment. So Dominic Malik for Supervac Esports just ahead of him in the Ford, and just in front of these guys also we've got Tim Phoeben from Muck One Esports. So a pretty tough competition to get around, as we see a little bit of a lock up.
Yeah, a little deep there from Phoeben, and that's just like mail it through. But he's going to be vulnerable to Bence here as well. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Wallace
being able to take a little bit of a flash of the lights too, just behind for Tom Huggin, trying to get through. Just let him know just to stay sideways and let me come through. But for Bence here now, the pace just picking up quite nicely in that car. He's averaging in the 24 range, so still finding the feet with how the C8 gets around the circuit here, but he's picked it up quite nicely. So just drops a little bit of a wheel off the back side of the turn 4 curve there. Doesn't seem to hurt him too much, but both himself and Malik putting in some very solid lap times, and these two very equally matched between the Ford and the C8, which is what we were seeing just earlier on with Ross Rizzo and Craig Edwards. See another car exiting stage left. That's one of the XRC cars. Might have been Tom Huggin there dropping out sideways. And this is a good opportunity for Bence. Thinks about a run down into the chicane. Not quite able to get it done, but he's going to use the drive with that C8 to get down. Should be able to claim the corner down into the hairpin. He's got that car quite a long way aside. Gets braked, slows it up nicely mid-corner there, and moves himself now up to the 8th position. That was a very strong move there for the number 8 driver.
Yeah, the Corvette rotating quite nicely at the second last hairpin, but unfortunately not so well at Goddard's. It's gone in a little hot, understeered wide, and it's probably going to cost him one, potentially 2 positions. We saw one of the RSRs there. So taking to the grass. Very, very close with Bence here. He's all over the back of, who is that in front there? It's Allen. Oh, unfortunately, a bit of a connection issue there for Allen too, so not ideal timing when they're in such close proximity. Looks like it's settled down and they can resume battle. Bence still looking very aggressive there. One thing I've noticed, the front end on the Corvettes, the guys seem to have a lot of confidence in the front end of that car. I see them quite often just looking to the inside, turning in, taking a bit tighter line on the entry.
Yeah, just watching here the replay for 2nd position. Josh Thomas doing a similar move to what we just saw from Jason Bence. Gets a good run down through the chicane there, throws it down the inside, and gets that move nicely done on Nicholson. Similar things, just overshot it a little bit mid-corner, which run him wide, but was able to get the move done back through Goddard's. And God, the BMW is such a big car when you look at it compared to the Ford, but for Nicholson there, it's the same thing as what we saw from Bence. Just locks up, understeers through, and ultimately drops that place. But Nicholson going to have to be careful now. He's got Ross Rizzo right behind, and Craig Edwards just dropped back a fraction here, so I'm not sure whether he's just starting to save the tyres and look forward, and maybe he's already resigned himself to 2nd place, but it was still 40 minutes left on the clock. He's got a lot of opportunity to still come back at this one.
Yeah, potentially with that front end being quite good on the Corvette, it could be using the front tyres a little bit more aggressively as well, so see how that plays out. And also That strategy with the early stop from Phoeben's definitely paid off because he's effectively third out of the 2 stoppers sitting just behind there. So going to be interesting closing stages to the race. It's been good to see quite a few battles with the different manufacturers going door handle to door handle. And here we've got Lee Vandenberg and Healy, so Mark 1 and Trick. Had plenty of battles in this series over the previous championships, and don't expect this one to be any different. Some healthy rivalry between some of the teams, long-standing teams in this series, so it's great to see that continuing.
Yeah, definitely. I think this battle with between Trick and Mark 1 has been going on for quite a while, as you say, Brad. And not much separating either of these 2 cars. Throw also Fusion Sim Racing into the mix as well with Craig Edwards and Hupperts, and these guys have been there about week in, week out, so they know each other very well. And looking at the way Healy's just placing that car at the moment, Porsche seems maybe just a little more settled than the BMW. He's able to pick the apex up, but BMW still has a little bit more straight line advantage, which is just allowing Vandenberg to retain that spot in the 15th position at the moment. They're dropping a little bit of time to the car ahead in James Glasspool, but not too much considering.
Woods
advantage there. As you can see, Healy just closes in between laps 33, 34, drops a fraction comparative to Vandenberg, but not much in, as we see one of the Pulse Sim Racing cars very wide, and almost contact there with Healy, lucky not to get involved in that. Healy flashes the lights in anger, he's trying to get through, so that has hindered him momentarily here. We'll see whether that car's able to get to the side here and let them through, but he's definitely not making it easy for Michael Healy at all.
Yeah, just while we're watching this, let's just keep an eye on the time screen that Rizzo's been able to make a little bit shorter work with these cars after the restart. He's up into third in front of Nicholson there now, and Edwards still behind Nicholson. He hasn't quite been able to get through, so it could be quite an important stage of the race for the outcome. Those one-stoppers still getting involved in that battle. They're barely getting involved. It's the strategy they've chosen, so they've got to try and make the most of it.
Healy right now would be getting the red mist to be starting to descend. He's finally been able to get that car around Chris Wetzel there for Pulse Racing Team. So a little unfortunate that has allowed Vandenberg to escape a little bit up the road, about 9/10 further up. So see whether he can go through. Jeremy Clark made very short work of that backmarking car as well. He's been able to retain the position and hang alongside. Harley Haver nicely down the inside. That gets him through on Cooper Allen. So continuing to recover. Haver now moves up into 10th position and making it very hard for Allen to get through. Runs him very wide there onto the dirt.
Yeah, not the first time we've seen Allen out there on that grass though, so and race control's been pretty quiet for a little while, but as you can see there, we've got Nick Zanfilippo has been given a post-race 15-second penalty for causing collision. That's back lap 37, turn 10, I think. Just see if we can find it here. Looks like run down into the Fogarty S's, is it?
Down into the second last chicane,
Melbourne
Adrian
hairpin
block, and not far enough up the inside there for Sanfilippo, so it's going to come closer. Here's a look at the onboard shot. You see him dive down the inside for Sanfilippo. He was a long way back before he sent that car down. No chance he was going to make that one.
Yeah.
And tagging the rear quarter there of the block. So
just saw Hughes dropping down the timing screen quite dramatically at the moment as well. Might be able to pick up what's happening here because he's in a rather busy section of the racetrack, so not an ideal exit through Fogarty S's there either. And that's Huppets. Runs a bit deep there. He's got Slauki and Huppets both in the Corvettes all over the back of him. Perhaps just lost a bit of rhythm there with an off-track moment or something. A couple little telltale signs of some damage on his car too, so he peels off into the lane. And he'd only been through just the once, so it's probably a good idea if he's just had a moment to get into the lane, reset, get that mandatory stop done, and come out and try and get back into a rhythm.
Yeah, definitely. William Mitchell, driver we haven't spoken of much at all throughout the course of the race, having a very solid run, up 20 spots from where he started. He's got Jesse Butler just ahead, Adam Gardner right behind, so the Pulse Racing car, a bit of a meaty sandwich between the two Mark 1 cars at the moment, but very solid pace comparative to the guys around him. He's a little bit quicker last time by than both Butler and Gardner, so should be able to start closing that gap down. That was 2 seconds up the road there. As Adam Gardner looking very aggressive and racy on the back end. We'll see whether he's able to set himself up for a run down into the hairpin. Not quite able to do. Runs it a little wider, so he's going to try to crisscross here. See whether he can get that car back underneath it. Just struggling to get a little bit of traction, so good drive there from Mitchell to maintain that 18th spot.
Yeah, there's still battles pretty much everywhere we look. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of the drivers out there will have enjoyed this one so far. Haber's definitely been busy. May not have enjoyed all the race, but he's making up for it in the second half. He's putting a lot of pressure on Huggan. And Huggan has been through the lane twice, so he'll be pretty keen to hold on to this position. Mellett just ahead, still yet to make his second stop, so if you just see on the screen there, so we've got Cullis, Thomas, Nicholson, and Mellett and Janssen in the top 10 yet to complete those second stops. Haber just gets a nice look down the inside, a bit of trail braking to get that nose in nice and tight there at the Melbourne hairpin. Gets that move done.
A really solid move there from Haber, now up into 8th position. So Dominic Malik will be the next car up ahead there, the Supermac Ford, for him to try and get through. Keep an eye and see how he runs through there. Simon Nicholson still sitting in the 4th position. He's got Craig Edwards still behind. So for Edwards, a little surprised given he's knocked over those 2 stops and hasn't been able to progress. Stay alongside Ross Rizzo. He can see just scampering out of shot there at the top of frame. So Edwards just playing this one safe. He knows that he's going to get past when the next round of pit stops come for Nicholson, but the longer he stays behind, while he might be saving a little bit of tyres, it's certainly going to make the run to the checker flag a little bit harder if he wants to close down that gap to Ross Rizzo. And similarly, Ross Rizzo not being able to move that gap further down on Josh Thomas. And as you said before, Brad, both Thomas and Cullis still yet to come down for their second stops tonight either. But here's an opportunity for Edwards. Not quite close enough to get that car down the inside, but is able to turn it back quite nicely. We'll see whether the drive and straight line speed of the C8 can get him through on the Ford. He's just going to run it a little wide, but he might be able to get the crisscross as we see.
He's going to get great drive out of here.
Lock those brakes. And we've seen that quite a few times tonight already with guys going into that final corner, snatching a brake. It does send them quite wide. And, for Nicholson there, he'll have to drop back in file and follow on here, but Edwards should be able now to set his sights firmly back on Ross Rizzo ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind sticking on board cockpit with Edwards just for a lap. Now he's got clean air, just to see how he's going with this Corvette. It's our first look at this new car, so have a bit of a look, see how it's handling, and now he's got some clean air in front of him. So just heading up to Coppice. It's quite a challenging corner that one, just turning in and sort of bit of a blind crest. It's really flat. There's no real camber to help you out. And the car wants to understeer quite easily there, and you can see perhaps just a little deep on the entry into Fogarty S's, but still clips the bollards going through there. Yeah, he takes a really, really tight line through the Melbourne hairpin there. The car almost stops. Sounds like he almost parks it on the apex, but gets really good drive coming out still. And similarly at Goddard, so yeah, Carlos is in from the lead. That's why we've been watching that. He's in the lane, so Edwards will go through to take third. So that cycles through.
So also to Donington elite and Cooper Allen dropping in to get their second stops completed as well. So with Jordan dropping in the lane, that'll put Josh Thomas now out in front of the race, still yet to stop for his final time tonight. And just lurking behind, you sort of caught a glimpse of him there. Ross Rizzo, not that far behind, only 2.2 seconds first to second at the moment, prior to Thomas coming in.
I'm actually just going to cut to replay. It looks like Carlos may be in the pits for more than a scheduled stop. Just coming up through McLean's. Yeah,
Runs
a little bit of an issue
wide
there. We'll see if there was more to the story. It's heading down to the Melbourne hairpin. Runs really deep there. It looks like he's really struggling to get that car stopped at the moment. Runs a bit wide. No damage, but it gets it rotated for Goddard's and then just decides to come into the lane. So just just a slow in lap.
Yeah, and the stationary pit stop time too was very long. Carlos, 57 seconds. Stationary, a minute 18 total transit time as well for him. So that's dropped him well now down the order, currently in 28th position. So yeah, it's a tough one to take for him. As we
Bit of a gargle here. And just in the foreground of that shot, the background as it was, you can see Allen really aggressive into turn one there again. In the green RSR too, to stick with these guys. Crisp has had probably not the race he was hoping for, the opening part of the race here. He's down 5 positions from where he started, currently 19th. He's got some good momentum heading up to McLean's there, but not really anywhere to go. Fred doing a good job to cover the line. But Chris will be pretty keen to try and make this happen because Keeping's not far behind in the Ferrari there, and Morris as well. Those guys have been almost glued together for the whole race. They've recently stopped as well. Or more recently than Crisp anyway. So it's getting very busy down here. Morris trying to seek opportunity and gets a bit of a wiggle on the exit. It's not quite being able to get the power down there, and Chris having a look into Goddard's. Some good side-by-side racing here, and Fred peels off into the lane to tick off his stop from the looks of it. Yeah, he'd only been through the lane just once, so nice bit of clear track now for Martin to try and pull away from the pursuing Ferraris.
Yeah, it was a little bit tricky there for him with the car dropping in the lane there as well. It's a little bit awkward when they're on the outside and trying to shoot across while you're getting the undercut done. But for Crispy, a good drive for him. He's already been able to open up quite a nice little gap currently from Chris Keeping and Matt Morris as well. So he's going to continue to revel now with the clear track out ahead. Back up through the field, looks like Simon Nicholson and Tim Phelan starting to get into a good little fight at the moment. 0.4 of a second between these guys. They work their way through the final corner, just ahead of them. You can see Craig Edwards in the Fusion Sim Racing car, and not too far behind as well. We've also got Harley Haber closing in on this fight. He's got a lap down car just ahead, which shouldn't provide too much issue there. But Haber now starting to get back into it. He's down in 6th position, and from considering where he's been so far up and down the night, he's been up and down through the field twice so far. It's been a standout drive for him to get back up. Should see him clear this left-down car momentarily. Steps aside and Haber straight through.
Yeah, his previous lap was a 24.2. Theben was a 24.1. Nicholson we're looking at 24.59, so basically 24.6. So he's probably going to come under a bit of pressure. Theben a little quicker, and obviously Haber's trying to charge through as well. So Nicholson still yet to make his second stop too. So I expect to see that XRC Ford peel off into the lane quite soon. And Thomas is trying to make use of clean air out the front, but yeah, he's going to have to stop again as well. So.
Yeah, the strategy for Thomas tonight just not quite there. When we saw Rizzo and Edwards dart back in the lane during the safety car for the first and second stops, that really set them up for a very solid run. And track conditions haven't changed too much. It's gone up marginally since we looked at it earlier on today. It's up to 22 degrees now. The ambient temperature has risen a degree, currently sitting at 18. So still quite good out there. The tyres may have just lost a little bit of performance, because earlier on it was down around the 19-degree mark. So a little bit of loss there, but all in all, the racing's still been outstanding out here. As we switch back to another battle with Martin Crisp and Adam Gardner still going at it over the 17th position. This one's really starting to tighten up now, and good opportunity here for Gardner to try and see whether he can send that BMW through and gain another spot. Ford very good down through the Craner curves.
Yeah, Gardner just trying to keep the momentum up here down from Schwantz and McLean's. So a little bit of a lift. There's not a just a slight dab with the brake, and you want to keep the throttle in, because it's really easy to lose the rear through there, which we've seen quite a few cars do already. Gets a nice run off Coppets, just half car width to the inside there, just to show Chris that he means business. Chris is a pretty experienced campaigner there. I don't think he's going to be too phased by that. I can see why he's pushing hard though, because Morris is all over the back of the BMW as well. So he's been able to pull a little bit of a gap over keeping. He was behind keeping, so he's been able to make that move and then pull a bit of a gap. Still a little bit of a wiggle on the exit of Goddard's there from Morris. I've seen that a couple of times. So interesting to see. Just how his tyres hold up towards the end of the race. Still another 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's interesting watching where these cars make their lap times in different spots. And for the Ford, it was really evident down through the Craner curves. They were able just to gap a little bit more with the downforce. Of the BMW further up the front, the battle for 5th position starting to rage on quite a bit now. 3-car train actually for 4th position. We've got Harley Habers now on the back of Tim Theben. Simon Nicholson still ahead of these two guys in the XRC Ford, but Haber now knocking on the door for potentially a podium. He's not that far behind. You can just see up to 3rd position Craig Edwards just hanging in there. So this is a fantastic drive for all these four. Be interested to see which driver looks to blink first, but for Nicholson, if he can gain a little bit of momentum and try and get away while Haber and Theben fight, this might actually help as the clock counter continues to wind down around the circuit. A little bit of cloud cover over here as well. That'll just throw the tyre temp out just a fraction and help these guys, but this is a fantastic little fight for the 3rd spot.
Rizzo's done a great job after that restart, making his way through most of that traffic. He's pulled out to 5.5 seconds, only 6 seconds from Edwards. Once Thomas pits, Rizzo's in a very comfortable position, and that's unusual. Just saw an issue for Phoebe, and it's like he could be a connection issue. We have seen that for him, unfortunately, before. Jansen's just had a moment in Boggity S's. So it's at that stage of the race where a few unexpected things are happening, and yeah, Phoebe's still tumbling down. Can't see him showing up as in the lane though, so it's like could be a connection issue.
Yeah, that'll be really unfortunate there for Tim, who have gone from what was turning out to be a fantastic fight and possibly getting back up into third spot there and having to go and fall out of that one due to some circumstances outside of his control. Steve Jansen, by the way, did have a moment before where he rotated that car around. He's dropped into the lane now to get his second stop for the night completed as we continue watching this exchange. For the race lead, once pit stop cycle through, it will be Ross Rizzo taking this one over. But at the moment, Josh Thomas putting on a solid fight with the number one on the door. It's last season's defending champ, and he's not going to make this one easy for Rizzo, even though he knows he's going to have to come through for another stop. He's still going to apply as much pressure as possible, and it's a good drive here at the moment for the Fisher Motorsports car, who did have a bit of a moment off that lap one crash that we saw where half a dozen cars were involved in that, and to come back through and fight his way up into the current lead of the race. Admittedly, still that stop to go. Been a fantastic drive.
Yeah, it's 50-50 with this at the moment. I mean, if you can maintain the same lap time and keep Rizzo behind, then that's definitely what you prefer to do. If this battle starts costing him a little bit of time, it may be better to just tuck in behind Rizzo until he makes his stop, because any time lost could mean track position when he feeds out of the lane. It's going to be a short stop. His last stop would have been with tyres under the safety car conditions, so it'd be a short splash and dash. But yeah, we think probably feed out around 10th position thereabouts. And yeah, if he loses too much time here, it could be a position or two, because there's some cars quite close together there. I've got Glasspool, and then Lee Vandenberg's about 3 seconds behind him, and Clark only half a second behind, so there's could be quite crucial as to where he filters out. And
Rizzo down the inside there as well, so Rizzo's actually been able to dispense of him and move that car, or the Trick Esports car, back up front, as Harley Haber now on the back of Simon Nicholson, as you see Craig Edwards too just in front, but Haber now closes up. The challenge made a little bit easier for him with the unfortunate dropout there of Tim Phoeben, but he's going to have a bit of work ahead of him. As you see, Ross Rizzo now completed that pass, can now set his sights firmly on closing out the last 15 minutes here and just putting the hammer down and getting on with it. But Thomas, he hasn't let go. He's going to have to consider that stop though momentarily, and we'll see where that plays into it. Third position, an effective second on track. Craig Edwards looking quite comfortable at the moment. He's got a handy little lead of about a gap over the guys behind for about a second, which is going to help Haber all over the back of Nicholson, however, as they fight for effective third position when we see Thomas come through. And this is a great little fight. And for Nicholson, it's going to be interesting to see where he decides to place this car, because we know from Haber's exploits, he can park a car almost anywhere and get through. And at the moment, Nicholson doing everything he needs to do to keep the car of Haber behind him.
Yeah, I mean, Nicholson and Thomas really doing, playing the only move they can with the strategy, having not pitted under that safety car for the second stop. So really just trying to extend it out, have the field stretch as much as possible to maintain the best track position they can when they filter out. As long as they don't lose time in these battles, that should still play out to see them as some quite solid results. But yeah, Haber makes pretty short work of that. The nice clean move. Nicholson didn't fight it too hard in the end, and Edwards is going to be the next one to feel the pressure from behind. Got Clark here in 11th, and Lee Vandenberg just ahead in the top 10. So these guys fighting around that 10th position. With Nicholson stopped, he'll probably feed out just behind these guys. So Clark could still find himself in with the top 10. We might see Thomas filter out in front of this battle here. So it'll be a 3 or 4 way BMW fight in the closing stages. Last pool a couple of seconds up the road as well.
And a nice new livery too on the right sim racing car there for Jeremy Clark as well. So good things for those guys as they continue on. Ross Rizzosin's getting out front to gain 0.4 of a second, so he's looking in really good stead. And further down the field, though, we've still got a great fight here between Adam Gardner, Steve Jansen, and Matt Morris. So Jansen's actually been able to get, we saw him come in the lane for a stop after his spin. And he's dropped out into the middle of this fight. It's actually allowed Martin Crisp to start gaining a little bit of an advantage and get away from this group. So we'll see whether he can extend that as they come down. For Morris, though, a little bit hard for him. It's really sort of throwing his rhythm out just a fraction here and just struggling now in that Ferrari to try and get those moves done. So we'll see whether he can go through. He might need some luck from a few guys getting into each other, as we nearly saw Gardner and Chris come together on the in the middle of the corner there, and just able to continue that fight on.
Yeah, it's good to see the 4 different manufacturers all quite close on track there, so you can pick out little differences in strengths and weaknesses. There's been a few drivers pushing pretty hard just in the last few moments. Thomas and Haber both with their personal bests. Lee Vandenberg's just done a purple sector in sector 3. And quite a few drivers dipping into the 23s now, so everyone's pushing hard, trying to make the most of this as we try and close out the last 10 minutes of the race. And Haber's been able to just chip away at this gap here. Edwards is going to have a bit of pressure. You can see the lap times are pretty close there. That's their best lap times we're viewing there. The previous lap, Edwards was a 23.97, so he's almost half a second slower than Haber on that last lap. So we won't be too long before we see Haber with perhaps a flash of the lights or showing the nose down into the 2 hairpins at the end of this lap. Perhaps it's where he's been able to make a lot of moves, been really aggressive under brakes there.
Yeah, definitely. He's really coming on quite strongly. The Porsche looking really good as far as the setups thought about, and really good to see. We've got currently 4 manufacturers in the top 4. Adam Gardner has gone around on the final corner there. Let's see if we can get a replay of what's unfolded here. So he's on the back of Martin Crisp, we've seen for quite a few laps now, and just overcooked. It actually gets a little bit of a helping hand. I think that might have been a fraction of net code involved in that with Steve Jansen, and that's rotated Gardner around. Let's have a look at the onboard just to see whether Jansen managed to stick the nose down. I think it might have almost been a lock of the rears as well, because Gardner came in very, very hot there and just not able to pull that car up in time. So that will drop him now down into 19th position, just behind Nathan Huppert's, who's actually recovering quite well after the early issues we saw for him, down in 18th position. The battle for effective second at the moment has closed down to absolutely nothing between Harley Haber, Craig
drives.
Edwards. Haber gets it down the inside. Edwards comes straight back at him, though. The little bit of overrun there for Haber didn't quite work out, but he's going to have the inside line as they fire down through Craner curves. And job done there for Haber. Now he finds himself up into outright second. And for Craig Edwards here, he's going to have to hold on because he's going to need to try and keep that car ahead of Simon Nicholson. But here's a look at the onboard shot from Harley Haber down into turn 1. Threw it in from almost nowhere, a little bit later on the brakes. Drifted it wide. You see a little bit of a lock up there as he tried to get that car turned in and rotated. And for Edwards there, it's a smart move to come back through the inside, just not able to have the momentum that he needed to get that car back ahead down through the Craner curves there. And for Haber, an outstanding drive.
Yeah, it's a heads up driving by Craig just to open the steering wheel a little there. But pretty fair move from Haber. Just a little bit of a lock-up, just right on the threshold braking. Obviously, these cars don't have ABS, so it's a fine art in getting the most out of the braking performance of these cars. Yeah, Edwards perhaps just a little bit uncomfortable with the change of car. Might take him a little bit to get used to how it performs over the longer stint or longer distance that we have in the enduro rounds like this.
Kane Ryder a little further down after some unfortunate issues for him there. About mid-race, we saw him have an off in that car, and he struggled to get himself back up. Currently down in 23rd position. He's got Scott Sislowski just ahead of him, and these guys are going to continue that fight on for the remaining 7 minutes here. And it's a good recovery still for Kane. He's still working to get some decent points in the championship for both himself and for the team results. So the only Max Boost racing car that we've got in top split tonight, so all those points will definitely help count for that team as they continue on.
Probably worth giving William Mitchell another shout out as well. He's up 24 positions. We just saw it was one of his teammates perhaps off the road in BMW there. But yeah, Mitchell's sitting in 14th. He's up 24 spots, and the car looks super clean. Doesn't look like there's any creased guards or anything on it. It's just consistent lap time, staying out of trouble, and yeah, doing a great job out there for Pulse racing team.
He's fallen away a little bit from the cars ahead. We've got Cooper Allen, Jesse Butler, another couple of Porsches that are just ahead of him there. So not quite able to match it on lap for lap pace, although it was 4/10 quicker last time by compared to those guys. So they're definitely coming back into it, but might have left that run just a fraction late with only 5 minutes still here on the clock. It's a good scrap just ahead though. That fight with Allen and Butler really starting to heat up, down to 0.2 of a second as they work down through the Craner curves for another time tonight. We'll see whether Allen's able to get that move done, which was just where we saw Haber complete his final run on Craig Edwards. Allen not quite able to do it yet, but it's interesting to see the lines that these two cars take. Allen a little bit entering those corners just a fraction earlier, thinks about throwing it down the inside.
A little wide.
Gonna push him hard to try and get it, but just not able to get the forward momentum that he needed to clear Butler there. So Jesse's just positioning that car quite nicely, just where he needs to hold on to that spot.
Yeah, Jesse's up 21 positions as well, so obviously flying under the radar a little bit. We have seen him briefly in a couple of battles as we've cut through the field, but getting some screen time here. Leaves the door open a bit there for Allen, but going to try and get better drive off here. It's that connection issue. It's like just appearing at inopportune moments for Allen, and it can be very off-putting when trying to battle someone that's having a slight technical issue like that. But yeah, Butler's having lost that position. He's still up 20, and so not a bad way to start the season. Or Morris really wide out of turn 1 there through Redgate, down through Hollywood. So it's crisp up ahead. You can see they were much closer before. Crisp had a gap and then fell back. And you had that contact with Gardner, and looks like he's being able to stretch away a little bit. Nicholson, he has made his stop and fed out comfortably, still inside the top 10, so P8, so it's actually not worked out too bad for him.
Yeah, he finds himself too just at the head of a good little scrap between Glasspool and Vandenberg as well. You can just see them in the back of shot there getting into it, so it's good for him to come out where he is. Still getting some good solid points and actually starting to drive away a little bit more in the Ford there. Now, current leader, Ross Rizzo, still putting in some very solid time, still in the 123s, as we're only about 3 laps away from the conclusion of this event. And still comfortably out front. Josh Thomas surprisingly hasn't come down the lane to complete that final stop for the night yet, so he's running out of time here to get that one done, so you're going to need to hurry up and sort that out. Harley Haber has already started to extend quite a comfortable lead over Craig Edwards since getting around him, so about 1.2 seconds advantage. And just quickly back to this fight with Jesse Butler and William Mitchell still going at it. They just fired down through turn 4 off the Craner curves. Butler gets the nose of the Porsche a little bit closer in, see whether he can try and send this one up the inside. Just not able to do it yet, but in for a very good opportunity here as they work their way through opposites. And can hang on here, he's in with a shot down through the S's.
Thomas in the lane. We'll see where he feeds out. He should be in front of Nicholson. Might be able to pop out in between Bence and Healy, perhaps. And yeah, it looks like that's precisely where he has fed out into 6th between Bence and Healy there. Or Haber with an off track, just flashed up there. But there's just been a wheel on the outside going down through the old hairpin, and we should be coming through to take white flag this time around.
Rizzo with a little bit of lap traffic just ahead. He's got Adrian Vlock in the BFG Quick Fix Computers car just ahead, so shouldn't make too much work of that. Vlock should allow him to come through, closes that gap down. But so far been an outstanding drive here from Rizzo. He'll have that one more lap to complete, but has not put a foot wrong. And the 2 pit stops, getting those knocked over under the safety car, was a brilliant bit of strategy there, which is
some kind of
trouble where it needs to be.
Lee Vandenberg just dropped back, so Clark's just come through to take 10, and Butler's been able to make his way through as well, so losing a few positions here. And he's going to have to try and fend off Mitchell, and then Jansen's just behind too, so those 3 guys in the RSR have made up 22, 25 and 21 positions respectively, so some great drives from those 3. And he's not looking comfortable at all. He's Vandenberg, he's basically just making way for these guys, going quite slowly. Surely he's not in a fuel-saving situation. Could be, but yeah, I'd be surprised. He's coming into the lane. Coming into the lane, and yeah, Jansen with a nice move. He's come through on Mitchell. Picks up that position with Lee in the lane as well. And Vandenberg, I think that's his, might just be his 2nd stop that he's doing there now as well.
Ross Rizzo now comes out of the 2nd to last corner, final time tonight, down into Goddard's to conclude what has been a fantastic drive for himself and the Trick Esports team. We'll see him come across the line to take victory for round 1 of season 13 tonight. Well done, Ross Rizzo. Harley Haber for United Sim Sports will come across the line in 2nd, followed not too far behind by Craig Edwards for Fusion Sim Racing. So fantastic drive to the podium. Still battles going on though with James Glasspool trying to get around Simon Nicholson.
Oh, he defends.
A little bit of bump and rub.
There's contact, and that's not ideal. A couple of those drivers picking up some freebies just in the closing stages there.
Yeah, that will see Healy gain a couple of spots there. Josh Thomas across the line. Steve Jansen trying to get another move completed. Actually, he'll continue to gain another spot with Christoph on the sideline.
Nicholson's still off the road there. Only just crossed the line now in 16th, so yeah, that's 8 positions or something. I think Nicholson dropped there at the end, so he won't be too happy with that. Cullis coming through, saw him in the lead for quite a while, but he had a lengthy trip down the lane. We weren't sure why that could have been, but it looks like he's struggling with fuel to make it home here as well. It's just going to crawl across. And oh, he just loses a position to keeping right on the line, and I think Vlock might have just pipped him.
He just managed to stay ahead of Vlock there at the end, but Hughes ran that thing to the bone, or dry to the bone. So we'll wait momentarily to see whether we get the interviews from the drivers to come through. There's still a couple of cars just to get through there. Just watching Chris Hughes come across the line. And that will conclude his run, as we see a few of our guys just trundling around to soak it all in and get those cars down through the lane. But Brad, fantastic race for the first season, or for the first event of this new season. And interesting to see the spread of cars that we had. Everyone in those top 5 manufacturers, or in all the manufacturers, getting a very solid run there tonight. And good to see the Ford finally back up on front.
Yeah, great way to kick off the season. Some fantastic drives out there. Obviously, we didn't see much of Ross in the closing stages because he kind of made short work of getting through those one-stoppers after the restart and built that sort of 5-second lead. But some great battles in behind, some bit of a mix-up in strategy. When that safety car came out, made it quite interesting. And then, yeah, a lot of people having changed cars, just trying to find their feet with those. And race control probably wouldn't be too displeased with how things went. They were kept a little busy in the sort of opening half hour of the race, but then after that, things seemed to settle down quite good, and some nice, like quite a lot of clean side-by-side moments that we caught through there, even down through Hollywood, Crown of Curves, and the old hairpin there. So yeah, just unfortunate that contact in Goddard's right at the closing stages there. So I dare say there'll be an investigation into that one and potential change to standings as a result of that. But overall, yeah, great event.
Everyone coming across the line, we'll just pull up the race results. And taking the win tonight was Ross Rizzo for Trak Esports, Harley Haber with a fantastic recovery drive in second for United Sim Sports, Craig Edwards getting home in third position for Fusion Sim Racing, Tom Huggin fourth, Jason Bence, a fantastic return to the series, comes home in fifth tonight. Defending champ Josh Thomas down in sixth position, Michael Healy home seventh, followed by Jeremy Clark, James Gaspool, Jesse Butler, Steve Jansen, William Mitchell, Matt Morris had a tough night out there, comes home in 13th. Martin Crisp in the 14th. Nathan Huppets, fantastic drive to come back from the issues that he faced earlier on with Simon Nicholson, Adam Gardner, and Dominic Malik in the 18th position. Nick Sanafilippo, after his early race penalty, gets home in 19th, followed by Lee Vandenberg. Scott Zaslowski, Kane Ryder had a bit of a tough night out there, home in 23rd. Chris Keeping getting across the line just ahead of Jordan Cullis, who we saw run out of fuel right at the end there to get home in 24th position. Adrian Vlock home 25th tonight, followed by Christopher Hughes, Aaron Specchio, and Chris Pallett. And then we had Bailey Freed, Chris Witzel, John Puce, Tim Feeman, unfortunately disconnected and fell down the order, comes home 23rd tonight. Cooper Allen, 4 laps down for AT Motorsports in 23rd. We had Justin Wallace, Julian Klimbersink, Jacob Brown, Sean Curran, and Geordie Sini, unfortunately not finishing this event. And it looks like we've got our race one winner, or round one winner, in here. We'll bring Ross Rizzo up into the booth, have a bit of a chat and find out how his race unfolded. Ross, congratulations. Round one victor tonight at Donington Park is a fantastic drive for yourself and Trak Esports. Give us a bit of a rundown on how your night unfolded out there.
Thanks very much. I think it was handed a little bit of a free kick with all the shenanigans on lap one, taking out, or holding up a lot of otherwise fast competition. So it felt like a 2-horse race fairly early against Craig. So I knew I was obviously having to match myself to him. Looked like I had some good pace on him. And it was just a case of when I say just a case, it was a case of passing at one of the hardest tracks and can possibly make overtakes. But Craig, being the consummate professional he is, I think we had a magnificent side-by-side duel for about half a lap, which was absolutely the highlight of my night. And the safety car really threw a spanner in the works, because I felt like I had a good grasp on how the race flow at that point. Not saying I had it in the bag or anything at that point, but I was fairly comfortable out front.
Yeah, well, the Ford looked. I mean, obviously, we've seen the Ford struggle a little bit in recent championship seasons, and obviously with the new car coming in, the Ford looked to hold its own quite comfortably out there tonight. And we think we saw you holding on quite nicely to the back of Craig Edwards, not really dropping away, and the car looked to be able to hold onto the tyres very nicely there. So going into the safety car that we saw, was it your intent to, the minute that was called, obviously would have come in, got the stop done? Were you always planning, though, if you had that opportunity to come in, get that second splash and dust done and to clear those two out for the night?
No, that was very impromptu. I actually got to thank Michael Healy for pointing out that he'd done his 2 stops at that point, and I thought I was in big trouble. But reminded me in the nick of time to be like, hey, I can get this other stop done, and that worked out absolutely beautifully. So thanks to Michael.
Fantastic. Next week we stay in England. We're off to Alton Park, another circuit that we probably don't race enough in the GT cars. Obviously coming from Donington tonight and how the Ford fared around there. How do you think it's likely to go going off to a somewhat similar circuit in the former Alton Park?
Honestly, wouldn't have a clue, but all I can say is huge testament to the guys at AMF and the Stig for the setups. I mean, we saw there were a lot of good there's a good mix of cars in the top 10. The Ford feels absolutely phenomenal this season. They're all the setups are a lot more pointier this season. So I think all the cars are a lot racier now. Whether or not that's reflected in my pace tonight, I don't know. We'll remain and see. But for now, the cars feel absolutely amazing. And if you want to try the new GTEs, or the new particularly the new Corvette, I think this is a good place to start if you're listening in and want to have a crack at some fixed setup racing and some close battles all the way through the field.
Yeah, definitely could not echo that statement anymore, mate. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and a thanks to?
So I'll just quickly again say thanks again to AMF, to you guys at Apex Racing, to Trak Racer, and of course to the boys at Trick Esports and Trick Custom Fabrications and Pro Sim Gear.
Fantastic, Ross. And again, congratulations on taking out round 1 tonight. Look forward to seeing you out at Alton Park next week. And until then, enjoy the celebrations tonight.
All right, thanks very much. Have a good evening.
That was Ross Rizzo, tonight's round winner. And up next, we've got Harley Haber, who's standing alongside Brad Klink.
Welcome to the booth, Harley, and great drive out there tonight. Pretty eventful. There was that moment in the exit of Redgate there where we ended up making contact with the barrier. What was going through your mind at that point as far as what could be done after that?
Yeah, thanks, mate. Definitely eventful is one way to describe my night. It was definitely had its ups and downs. It didn't go as straightforward as what I thought it would have, made. But I came out of turn 1 there after just pretty much had my head down, pushing on and trying to get past as many people as I could, as quickly as I could. And the GTE cars are a bit difficult once you kind of get one wheel on the grass to hang on to. And I'd almost only lightly touched the fence, but bent the steering, so quickly pitted and got the fast repair and our fuel stop out of the way, which actually kind of worked in our favour towards the end there. When we had that late safety car, we were able to come back in and do a tyre stop, which obviously would cost us a bit of track position, but it got our 2 stops out of the way, and then obviously just pressed on from there.
Yeah, it was entertaining for us to watch, trying to see how far you'd be able to come back through. Obviously there's unfortunate the disconnect for Feeman. It looked like it was going to be sort of a good 3-way battle with yourself, Craig, and Feeman there for a while, but once he had that misfortune, it was pretty much a straight fight between you and Edwards, and you seem to have a real strength, particularly in the last sector into the Melbourne hairpin, and Goddard's just making multiple positions under brakes there. Is that part of the track you've always sort of had that confidence in, or just sort of found the sweet spot with the threshold braking tonight?
Yeah, I think I think one of my strengths is really, like you said, made under brakes. But I was losing a little bit on the exit of the corner out of both hairpins. I mean, I guess it's just good to be the quickest Porsche. It's pretty much all you can ask for when you've got a series with a couple of different cars. Like, at the end there, it was good. We're kind of battling with the Corvette, and obviously Ross was out in front in the Ford, which didn't really get to battle him at all throughout the night, so I didn't really get to compare pace with him. But a bit unlucky with Phoebe, as you said, dropping out. It could have been a couple of Porsches up the front having a bit of a battle, mate. But I mean, all in all, everyone kind of has their strengths and weaknesses, and I think that the different cars on different tracks are pretty cool, because you don't, all of them are set up to kind of be as close as they possibly can, but there are certain corners where some cars are better than others, which obviously creates a good overtaking opportunity.
And moving on to next week, obviously we've got Alton Park. It's some similar characteristics to Donington. It's not the widest track on the calendar, and a bit of undulation there as well. You had some strong results there previously. What are your thoughts heading into that round?
Yeah, mate, it's been a while since I've done any laps at Alton Park, but obviously if I've got the time to do it, I'll jump on Saturday night and do an hour of practice like I normally do, and rock up on Sunday and kind of just see where I end up. So we're not really aiming to do the whole championship at this stage. We're kind of just playing it by ear. It's a good series being set up. It doesn't require a whole lot of prep work for us, so we just kind of rock up and mix it up a little bit with the other guys and go from there. But always looking forward to it, mate. Should be a good race regardless.
Yep, no worries. Well, congrats on the drive tonight. And is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, thank you, mate. Obviously, everyone at United Sim Sports, and Chris Radicic for being the best engineer on the grid always, mate. He's always on the ball with our strategy, and got me out of a shit situation, which I made a mistake, and he seems to fix everything up and make it okay, mate. So I should be back next week for another one.
No problem. Yeah, I look forward to it, and good luck for next week.
Thanks, mate. Take it easy.
That was our second place finisher and top driver in the RSR, as Harley mentioned there, Harley Haber, and great recovery drive after a little adventure on the exit of turn 1 during that race.
And bro, that was was sort of a fantastic race to close out, or to start the season. As we've just gone through race 1, and we must thank all the sponsors who helped get this one underway. Trak Racer sim equipment for all their support, Black Wolf Graphics for custom iRacing liveries, and Team Apparel, Acuta Rigging Solutions for hardware and rigging equipment, RC Maker for all your RC hobby needs, and RMS for the race management services, which you can see at rms55.com. Brad, next week we touched on, we're off to Alton Park, a very different circuit to what we've seen here, a little bit more bump challenge for these cars to get through. Be interesting to see how they go. How do you think the cars are going to stack up based on what we've seen so far tonight?
Yeah, it's always hard to say with just the first round. I know the organisers, we usually want to wait a few rounds if they are thinking of doing any further balance of performance adjustments, but you do need a car that's quite good on the curbs at Alton Park compared to Donington here. Some of the curbs are a bit more aggressive, and you do need to use them a little bit to get the lap time out of them, particularly down through the chicane in the middle of the lap. So yeah, it's be interesting to see how it plays out. Quite a narrow track, so there is the potential for safety cars there. Again, not a lot of runoff area, probably even less so than what we have here at Donington in most places. So it's quite easy for cars to end up out to the barriers. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, definitely will be a good show based on what we've seen tonight. I mean, we've got Ford, Porsche, Corvette, Ford, Corvette, BMW, Porsche, a couple of BMWs, and another Porsche in the top 10. So it's a really nice mix. And when we saw those different manufacturers on track, the was quite entertaining to see the different strengths and weaknesses, and as the drivers sort of adapt to the styles of those cars that they've swapped from previous season. Obviously, as Ross was mentioning just before, the setups seem a bit pointier, which we could see that in a couple of the cars rotating really nicely. So bodes well for good side-by-side action going into the entries and some close battles.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this one will unfold. It's already been a great start for the Ford, Porsche, and the Corvette tonight, and going off to Alton Park should provide us with another exciting event. It will be a 45-minute race, first of our sprint series for the championship, but very much looking forward to it. Thank you all very much for tuning in and watching, and for Brad Klink, Scott Newton, who did a fantastic job behind the scenes, as always, myself, Daniel Lee. Wish you all the best and look forward to seeing you at the next event next week at Alton Park.